Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. As you can see in front of you, it is on Sage 50 accounts, company preferences. So my name is Matt. I'm going to be guiding you through company preferences today and what we can and can't do. What are we going to be covering though? Well, it's quite a short webinar today, bit of a quick learn. We're going to first look at what are company preferences. Then we're going to be looking at why would you use company preferences. Then it's going to be a big demonstration. Because with company preferences, it's a lot easier to guide you through it than it is to just show you a slide and talk about it. I think if you've got 2 screens, 3 screens, whatever it is, multiple screens, I'll say that, maybe click along. You might pick up some of the things and tips that'll make your processing a bit quicker or a bit better. Then we'll go through a summary and we'll have a look at some resources. Today, because it is such a short webinar, there's no handout. So my tip is in the follow-up email, you'll be able to re-watch the content again, and you'll be able to, stop, pause, and have a look and go through the demonstration. So no handout today. Don't worry, I haven't been complacent and forgotten. It's just not there. But let's have a look at the rules. They're the same as always. So your microphone's automatically muted. So if you're going to cough or sneeze, you're not going to interrupt anything that I do. Don't worry about that whatsoever. Again, no handout, but the ability to ask questions is always going to be there. I encourage that. I'm flying solo today, as we say. It is just myself. So if you do have any questions, if you could be patient with me answering them, that would be fantastic. I will prioritize questions about company preferences ahead of any other topic. Any other topic, I'll get in contact with you afterwards, send you an email, and we can discuss what the issue potentially could be. But again, I hope you're all ready, because here we go. We're going to start talking about what are company preferences. Well, quite simply, they're a set of customizable settings that allow you to tailor the software to suit your business needs. Now, I'm going to quickly run through these with you. Okay, so you can configure this information. It is company specific, not software specific. So just because you change it in one company doesn't mean it's going to affect the others. The clue is company preferences there. The first one you can see is details. Your name, address, VAT registration number, that kind of thing. Your standard company details that you can adjust and change. In there, you can see I've just typed some nonsense in. But it could be whatever you want it to be. You've got labels, which again, customize your address field labels. So you change your town, city, customer, supplier. We'll click through these in a demonstration. Parameters, I'm going to spend a little bit of time going through the parameters because that is kind of like the kitchen drawer that we all have in our kitchens. It's just full of loads of different things that have accumulated over time. And I'm going to go through that kitchen drawer of options with you to explain what they can do. Then you've got the reporting. You've also got the budgeting if you use that option where you can switch from advanced to standard. You've got your VAT settings, which is important in the UK at the moment with MTD rearing its head. You've also got your integrations at the top there, so Payo, supplier payments, go cardless. These are things that integrate within your Sage 50 accounts, and also your CIS settings, so your construction industry screen. If you're part of that, then that's where the settings are held. But if you don't use that aspect or area of the program, you're probably not going to see that there because you haven't activated it. But again, that is what is encapsulated in the company preferences. That's what is there. Now, why do people use them? Bullet pointed them. So it's a tailored business setup. This allows you to input and maintain accurate company details. So you've got them on record. Remember those old Filofaxes and Rolodexes that we used to have? Company preferences is that for your company. Improved compliance, bit of a big statement, that one, but it is. So for example, if you are using CIS or your VAT configuration, having all your details up to date and correct in this section means you are being compliant. So when you submit anything, you can avoid the risk of errors or penalties for late submissions for things being incorrect. Your enhanced reporting. So by customizing your reporting preferences, you can control how your financial operational data is presented. Not layouts and fonts and logos and what have you, but the more basic kind of behind the scenes reporting options are there. You can streamline your operations, so your budgeting methods again, your payment integrations with your integrated apps and add-ons. That's all going to be there. Better user experience. So once you've typed it in, once your address, for example, that's it, done across the whole entire program. So you're not constantly having to, falter and alter your workflows. Integration with other tools, again, is exactly what it says on the tin there. You can see what you're integrated with, and you can begin your integrations in that section as well. So if you don't have a Payo, you can start the journey there. More information on these add-ons, these integrated apps and what have you, all available on our website, sage.co.uk/help. So if you need any further information on any detail like that, open up our webpage. It's all going to be there for you. Today is the whistle-stop tour of the company preferences. So we will be going into some detail of each of the selections, but again, each one of these tabs could have its own 35, 45-minute webinar because of what it does. My job today is to make sure you know where to go in order to do things. And also you might pick up some handy tips as well. So without further ado, let's jump over to Sage 50. And like I said, it's very demonstration heavy today. So we're going to crack on. Also, if you've got any questions during the demonstration, type them in, okay? And if I can't answer them or demonstrate something for you, I will do immediately. So this is Sage 50. Hopefully you can see that in front of you. Settings, company preferences. That's how easy it is to find. So logged in as manager or with the appropriate permissions, settings, company preferences. Nice and easy. You will always be prompted to type in your password because of the fact that this holds information that can be changed and can affect the company. So you will always be asked to do that. If you don't know that password and you want to have a look around, you can access this in your demonstration data. So if I go File, Open Company Data, and then I select Demonstration Data, click Open Company. Once it's open, you can see a couple of options have disappeared there because of the fact that I haven't activated, for example, CIS or anything like that at all. Settings, company preferences, no password required because it's a demonstration company. But in your live company, you'll be prompted for the password if you do have one. I'm going to re-access my live company now. So you may have spotted one of the changes that I'm already going to make. The eagle-eyed among you there. So I'm accessing my company. As you can see, I've just noticed it is a square bracket. That's not meant to be like that. How would I change it? Well, I would change it in company preferences. So I've just entered my password, remember, to access the actual company. But then when I select company preferences again, I will be prompted again. Security, all about making sure you're aware of any changes that are made. So nobody without the password can just access your PC, quickly type in any kind of changes. So I can already see, look, my details are incorrect. This company was called Year End. If you're familiar with my webinars, you'll know that this is the data set that I always use for my year end demonstrations. So my company name is Year End. It is a limited company, and you see the changes that were made there. Up to limited company, and it's asking me for my company registration. I could even search company's house by clicking on that, and it will bring up this button here. And I can search for my company information. Again, I've got all my details here, where I'm based, phone numbers, pretty self-explanatory stuff, this. Even down to these numbers here. So you've got your economic operators registration identification number. Okay, that's a unique identifier used by businesses when importing or exporting goods within the European Union. So if you do import, export, you may want to store your EORI number in there. But you've also got your DUNS, dunce number, which is It basically is a digital fingerprint for people to find you and potentially run credit checks on your company, not individuals, but on the business itself. Again, that's by Dun & Bradstreet, that number. So you may, for records, want to type that in there. You've also got your credit reference. These are all can-dos. You can also click this button and get you to your delivery addresses. It will tell you where your delivery addresses are. You can alter them, delete them. Again, these are all just settings for yourselves. Let's quickly glance across the top though. So we'll go here. This is Europeo by Avalon. Again, I'm not going to go into this in great detail because a lot of you may not have a Peo, but if you do, this is where you would enable it to start off with and set up Europeo. And as you can see there, a Peo enables you to securely accept card payments online directly from an invoice or over the telephone. Payment transactions are automatically reconciled into your Sage account software when a Peo is enabled. So again, time saver. Your construction industry scheme settings are also in here, as you can see. Also, your supplier payments, if you have that enabled. And your Go Cardless. Again, integrations here. Back to details. So your basic company details are here. And you can paste an address if you've copied one from somewhere. You've then got your labels, self-explanatory. If you're printing labels, this is what's going to print out of those labels. Moving into reporting, skipping parameters for now, I'm coming back to that one. Reporting, a couple of interesting ones here to note. Print end of report banner. So if you've got a 10-page report and you're handing it to your colleague to the left, both go on lunch, come back, they pick up the report, and it's only got 7 pages. They're missing 3 pages. They're not to know that. But if you have a print end of report banner at the bottom of your reports, they will automatically know they've reached the end of that report, because on that 10th page, there'll be end of report. So it's a full stop, it's a bookend of your reports. Nice little tip, that one. I know it's a very kind of unique and niche circumstance, but if you've got print end of report banner at the end of all your reports, you'll know you've reached the end of each and every single report. Self-explanatory, these ones, print address and stationery, check lines per page. You've also got this little button here, use data path for reports. Now this is a multi-user option. Okay, if it's just one user, one PC, you're potentially not going to have this, because your data path for reports will be your C drive. If you have remote data access, multiple users, or a network, by ticking this button, you're telling Sage to use wherever your data is held to find the report templates. If it's unticked, it's going to use whatever templates are on your C drive. If it's ticked, it's going to use whatever reports are held on, for example, your network. So you shouldn't really be, clicking about in this place unless a technician's told you to, or an IT person has told you to. But that's what that is. Use data path for reports. Wherever your data is held, it's going to go there to find the templates. Then you've got accountant, and guess what you put here? Prizes for guessing. It's your accountant's details. Again, this is just for you to store this information. Budgeting, if you use it, you can switch from standard to advanced, the type, and also chart of accounts. If you've got more than one chart of accounts here, they'll all appear in here. Now, recalculate departmental actuals. Again, this is something that a tech would potentially advise you on doing after they've diagnosed something that needs to be happening. So potentially don't click around in this area unless you're confident in knowing what needs to be clicked and that you use budgeting. And then you've got VAT. So this is for the MTD users, which will be all of us shortly, given the directive that's coming in. This is where you would make sure that all your VAT information is held correctly. First off, tick and enable making tax digital for VAT submissions in there, and just complete all the information as it is below. Again, HMRC payments, where's it going? EC VAT descriptions, all in here. So these are all customizable, but have them to what they should be for your company. is the ultimate message, because when you go to submit your VAT return, this is where the information is going to get pulled from. Hopefully that makes sense. That's a big one. So the ones that potentially are used more than any are details, budgeting, VAT. The other ones, not so much, very niche. But then parameters. Like I said, this is the kitchen drawer. This is where everything, there's a little bit of everything in here for you to look at. Call charges, first off, let's start with that. As a technician, we get calls on this one, and it would be primarily solicitors who would charge X per hour. They would type in their call charge rate there, so that when they were processing, had a call with X person for X amount of time, it would issue that call charge. Transaction processing, again, is self-explanatory. So I'm not going to go too much into that. The writing is all there for you. But this part here, the others, is where it gets interesting. So if you use recurring entries, this box here, ticking and unticking, is that box that appears when you first log into the program, says you have recurring entries to enter. Okay, so by putting a tick in there, no recurring entries at startup. We've got allow negative stock. I'm going to go through some of the not popular ones. Allow negative stock in there. So again, if you're using stock on here, a tick in there will allow you to go minus in stock, over order potentially. By not having a tick in that box, it's not going to let you do that. Project costing and charities, again, if you use these options, you would just put a tick in these box. We've also got the pause outside of financial year message. So if you are typing outside your financial year and you keep getting that message that says you're inputting something outside of the financial year, if you do or do not wish to see it again, there's the tick box for it. It's in the other, it's in the kitchen drawer here. Now, copy skeleton journals. So if you've memorized journals, and let me word this correctly for you all, because it's quite a good one. If you're recalling a memorized journal, you've got the option to include the original values or the amounts from when it was saved. Why would you want to do that? For example, monthly rent, or maybe a depreciation journal. You'd want it to remember those values. So copy the skeleton journal values. So not only is it going to copy the content of the journal, but also the values within it. If it's disabled or unticked, and you recall a memorized journal, it's going to just load the structure only of that journal. So if you're doing things like variable expenses that go up and down, or maybe payroll, a journal that's going to have different figures month on month, week on week, whenever you post it. So by having a tick in that box, you're basically saying, yeah, I'm going to allow the values to be recalled at the same time. Little time saver, that one. Tiny little time saver, but a good one. Enable a reversing of journals. Proof's in the pudding on that one. It enables you to reverse journals, essentially. If you take that out, you won't be able to reverse them. Again, these are things that you may not know have existed. They're automatically ticked, and you might just take them for granted that they is part of the program, but these are customizable options within the actual program itself. Enable data management. I can see some of you that are in today have been to the data management webinar that I wrote and provided you all for. So the enable data management, again, essentially is letting Sage advise you of changes in your data. So you're approaching X amount of invoices, X amount of customers, X amount of suppliers. Is your program running slower? By having that ticked, you're allowing Sage to monitor the volume of your data. So you can successfully manage that volume to make it easier for you to, delete or find records, that kind of thing. Individual journals, Susan, good question. So remembering values on journals, is this an all or nothing? Or can you make this decision on individual journals? I think I'm reading that as. Correct me if I'm wrong, Susan. Very good question. But by having a tick in that box, you're giving yourself the option of both. By not having a tick in that box, it's just going to remember the structure only. So really good question, that one. So you're giving yourselves the best of both worlds by having a tick in the box. if you're with me on that one. Really good question. Now, you appreciate, again, because I am answering this on my own, you're not going to see that question to everybody else in the audience, as it were, because I'm not replying to it using my keyboard. I'm verbally replying. But really good question, that one, Susan. Keep them coming. Hopefully that's answered that. A good one as well to note in here is you see this display active search pop-up. I'll give you an example of that one. So if you are in, I don't know, let's say a customer's profile, and you type A, and it brings up this box here. This box here is your active search pop-up. So if you've got two very similar customers and you type A, but you keep accidentally selecting ABS garages, if you put an X in the box for active search pop-up, that's not going to happen anymore. You're not going to have those suggested nexts. Who's it going to be? So that's the active search pop-up there. So if you take that out, you're not going to see those pop-ups anymore of predicting who you're going to be picking. Again, it's very rare that it gets on people's nerves, but it can do. And that's the way you would solve that problem, is just by taking a tick out of that box there. The other really good one here is enable smart totals. Again, it's an option I think is often taken for granted, but I'm going to show you what it is. So if you go to customers, for example, in this example here, can you see this bar at the bottom? 0 out of 30 customers selected, total balance. If I was going to select everybody who's over their credit limit, who's highlighted in red in this instance, it would tell me, and as you can see, it's adding it up. The smart total. So we're on 39,949. I'm going to select these two. We've gone up to 62. Going to include the last one. So I know that in total, £64,479,000 in my fake company is the balance of what people are over their credit limit. Helps me make a decision that knowing that information instantly. If I was to click swap and highlighted all of my customers, as you can see, every single one is highlighted, and I just did that by clicking swap clear, okay? You can now see the total is everything that's outstanding from my customers. I haven't had to run a report. I haven't had to have a look in here, or what's going to give me this information. At a glance, I can say, right, well, I'm owed £90,640.61. If somebody was to say to me, right, I need to know what A1 Designs, Bronson, and also Morley Solicitors are outstanding combined, well, in total, they only owe us 392, and that is coming from Morley Solicitors. Now, again, not to labour the point, but if I was to take away the option, again, type my password in, of that, smart totals, okay, go back to customers, it's gone. Doesn't exist anymore. So I now cannot see these cumulative totals that I'm clicking on. It has created a bit more space, so if cumulative totals or smart totals is something that you're not too interested in, then you've got some space back, you've got some real estate back. As you can see, the screen looks slightly different, more information is available. So there's pros and cons, essentially, of that, but you lose that ability to have it. So back to company preferences. The last one I wanted to touch on within company preferences here is another good one. Actually, I didn't save my changes there, did I, for year end? Change it now. There we are. So company preferences, again, every time you click on it, password every time. One that we get questioned on quite a lot is exclude deleted transactions. Now, this is not from your ledger, transactions ledger. Okay, you can't exclude those from that section of the program. It's not possible. But you can exclude them from certain aspects of the program. So if we go to customers here, and let's pick on A1 Designs again, and I look at their activity, double click there by accident, apologies. You can see here that they've got all sorts of activity. If I was to delete this transaction, it's going to do random deletions here, don't worry about it. You can see that there's nothing showing it was deleted. Again, I'm going to delete that transaction. So there's nothing showing that this was deleted whatsoever. No red writing, no red pen. If I go back to my company preferences and I want to include, by unticking, I'm including deleted transactions. I go back to A1 Designs. I've double clicked again, apologies. The deleted transactions will now be apparent. They'll be in red. So if I go to delete an SR, see, there it is, in red. So we can see that number 815 SA. Settings, company preferences. And then we select exclude. We go back to A1 Designs. Not going to double click this time. It's disappeared. It's been excluded, hasn't it? It's gone. We can't see it. It doesn't mean that the deletion has been deleted, for want of a better phrase. What it means is you can't see it from the activity screen, so that when you run a report, there's no red pen on there. So if you've got a customer where there's been a lot of mistakes made or a lot of transactions deleted, i.e., and you exclude those by ticking that box, you're not going to see it. It's not going to hamper your site. You're only going to see what's relevant in that instance. You're only going to see what is active in that instance. It's not going to affect anything in here. Regardless of what you do, you're going to see everything in here that has been deleted. It's just how it works. Hopefully that makes sense. So back to company preferences, I'm open to any questions. Let's even ask one so far. If there's any more, fire them in now while I just go through the last couple of bits on the parameters. So the last one here, enable check data and backup when users are logged in. So again, this is a multi-user issue that can sometimes happen when people want to check the data and want to do a backup, but they have people in multiple areas of the business logged into Sage, so they cannot. If you put a tick in that box, you're going to be allowed to do a check data. You're going to be allowed to do a backup without having to, ask people to leave or remove them. The only con I think of that is that if people are currently processing, what's it going to back up? Are they going to be processing during the backup process? So again, approach that with caution. More so for check data, I think you're okay, but with backing up, I would always ask people to leave the program or stop processing while you do it, just so that we know everybody's got the same information available to them, essentially. But that is the whistle-stop tour. I think the majority of the information that you should be holding in here, if you go through it once and do a little bit of a spring clean, you're going to benefit from it. So your details, make sure they're all correct. Are they up to date? Because if you've got print address on stationery, it's going to come from here. So is this all up to date? Is what you want displayed? Same with your labels, with your reporting. Have you got that in the report banner on so that your colleague knows, yeah, that's the end of that report. that was sent across. Accountants details, how often people say, I can't find the number. I'm going to be ringing them. Here it is. Budgeting again, if you're using VAT, I think, more so than any ever, is going to be the main one that people are going to be entering company preferences for. I have gone a little bit over the half hour. Apologies for that. I get a bit carried away when it comes to company preferences because it's not so much an examined part of the program, but it does hold some really good nuggets of information in there for you and some good little tips that can, speed up your process on a day-to-day basis. Not going to say you're going to be in here every single day. I know you're not. But just one spring clean can really tidy things up. So in summary, today we've had a look at what company preferences are, the benefits of using them, and then we had that elongated demonstration that I've gone through as well. Remember, there is no handout, so if you do need any information from this webinar, just rewatch it. You'll be sent a copy within the hour to your email address. Have no fear. When it comes to questions, I think I've answered them all. Certainly covered all the subjects of the questions that came through. But if you have further thirst for knowledge, you can always go to our free learning content in Sage University, bite-sized videos there. All levels of skill within Sage are combated there. Not only that, we've got the one-to-one bespoke training options. So if you need help setting up your company and designing a way to process, or you want to change, or you've got questions about how you should be processing, book an hour with us. We'll log into your PC over Teams and we'll basically have a chat with you, and you can ask us as many questions as you want. The only thing that they don't do is process for you, but they will most certainly show you how to process and how to work things that you want worked. But apart from that, thank you very much for your attendance today. Much appreciated that you all turn up and pay so much attention and ask so many questions. So again, thank you so much for that. If what you could do for me as a final favor is just complete the survey after the webinar for me, that would be a great help. We read absolutely every single comment, and we also, once we've got enough suggestions for topics, we build webinars based on that. Again, company preferences was something that was requested, so we've gone away and we've built a webinar for it. So any suggestions, more than welcome, and feedback in general is always more than welcome. It cheers us up to read. So thank you in advance. But I'll leave you to your day. Thank you very much indeed again. Enjoy your lunch. If you do need anything further, you know exactly where we are. Hopefully, I shall see you all soon. Bye for now.